A very warm evening in Lagos, Nigeria. And for Nigerians, it's D-Day tomorrow. Okay, shift to the next letter of the alphabet. It's actually E-Day. That's Election Day in Nigeria. And that's in less than an hour from now. But of course, the proceedings will be formally kicking off at around 8 a.m. So we'll be discussing what will be unfolding or expected to unfold, and of course the events ahead of that very important occasion for Nigerians. Well, it's election day tomorrow, and the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, made that very clear when he met with various local and international stakeholders in the conduct of the polls at the International Conference Center in Abuja. Well, with that opening statement about the holding of elections in Nigeria, he put to rest any iota of doubt that Nigerians will be going to the polls to elect a new president, well, depending on how you look at it, and of course, members of the National Assembly. With that, I say welcome to The Verdict, a special Channels television coverage of the 2019 general elections in Nigeria. I'm Charles Eruka.
And I'm Kaide Alaide. Charles, absolutely, it's official. I mean, about a week ago, we were about starting the program when we got news that the elections might not be holding on Saturday. But today, it's official. The INEC chairman, as Charles said, has laid it to rest. We are going to go to the polls tomorrow. 72 million Nigerian plus are going to the polls tomorrow. And they're going to be at 190,000 plus polling units across the country to choose who the next president of Nigeria is going to be. And we are here. We're going to be here till tomorrow morning to be monitoring the, to be talking about the mood before the elections. We also know that 825,000 plus ad hoc staff have been engaged by INEC. We'll be talking about issues leading up to the elections. We're talking about the mood. We're talking about preparation of INEC in terms of security, in terms of preparation of sensitive and non-sensitive materials as we prepare for the polls tomorrow morning. Ayel.
Indeed, I'm so excited. I'm sure you guys are excited as well. And it's great to be here to talk about the 2019 general elections once again. The die is cast, the stage is set, and of course, like you already know, tomorrow will be the day when Nigerians go out there to perform their civic responsibility to have the president, a new president for the elections, and talking about the National Assembly as well, the House of Representatives, and of course the Senate. As far as security is concerned, well, the Nigeria Police has already given assurances that it will be a free, fair, and credible, working, of course, in concert with other security agencies for the election. So all we can tell you is that everything, all angles are already covered. So we are raring to go for the elections, and it promises to be an incredible and exciting event for the whole of Nigeria. I am Ayotunde Balogun, and welcome again to The Verdict.
Well, indeed, we are not here alone. I think at this point, it will also be necessary to introduce our guests who will also be joining us in the discussions of the mood ahead of the elections in Nigeria. And of course, we are all set for very in-depth, very exciting, very interesting, and of course, very informative discussions here today. As we have joining us in the studio, a legal practitioner, Mr. G.T. Ogunye. Thanks for joining us.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
And of course, right beside him, we have a communications professional, Mr. Ikemesit Effiong. Thanks for joining us on The Verdict.
Great to be here.
Well, it's all about the mood ahead of the elections today. And of course, we'll be looking at some of the talking points. Well, mood is not just about the feeling, but of course, the activities and of course, preparations and the issues that Nigerians think should have been addressed, and of course, the feeling from the Independent National Electoral Commission. And we're also talking about the stakeholders and what they have to say about how the elections are being prepared for ahead of E-Day in just a few hours from now.
Yes, absolutely, Charles. It appears that all parties to this election have a sense of, have a good sense. They're happy as we prepare for the polls. The international election observers, Mrs. Ellen Johnson-Sirleaf, addressed the press earlier in the day, and she expressed confidence based on what she had seen that it appears that Nigerians are ready. Congratulated INEC. We also heard from the representative of the United Kingdom. She also addressed the press and wished Nigerians well. We also have heard from people, we've heard from our correspondents, we've heard from the security forces. Everyone seems to be confident that we might not have wasted the last 7 days.
Absolutely. Well, you said we'll be hearing from, we've heard from our correspondents. Exactly. We'll also be hearing from our correspondents who are strung across the length and breadth of the country in various locations, key locations, waiting to bring us updates on how those places they're covering are preparing for the polls tomorrow. And of course, you know, we also have been hearing from the security agencies and from the electoral umpire himself, or should I say, as a body entirely.
INEC.
Yes. Now, at this point, would like to, you know, focus on the mood ahead of the elections. Mr. Ogunye, you've been out there, and of course, what exactly were you able to gauge?
Well, thank you. Last week, about this time,
I actually kept away from that.
Yes, I mean, we were all waiting.
Yes, we left
bated breath.
We left your studio downcast, with despondency, with angst, and of course, disappointment. It is good to realize that a week after that disappointment, we are resuming the discussion today with a certain degree of optimism and certainty about the election. Certainly, 4 hours down the line today, we aren't expecting that we'll be walking up to a root chalk with a terse statement that election again has been cancelled. So I think that Nigerians who have traveled far and wide and those who are in residence in the cities of their location will sleep this night with the assurance that tomorrow they will be able to perform their civic duty. And for those who will be watching us from here and abroad, I think that they will be doing so, certain that tomorrow this election will be conducted. And I can say that Nigerians are quite enthusiastic about this election. It is true that Nigerians are beset with all sorts of problems, socio-economic, political. But in spite of all these challenges and problems, they've demonstrated a huge confidence in the electoral process. And over the years, in spite of the fact that in the course of electioneering campaign and the course of election itself, on election day, there have been all sorts of developments, ranging from violence, intimidation, and all that. They've stood their ground, and they've continued to participate in the electoral process. They are quite optimistic that tomorrow they'll be able to perform this civic responsibility.
Oh, that's a good
Well,
one.
of course, absolutely, yes, Nigerians optimistic this time around that certainly we'll be having elections on the 23rd of February, 2019. Well, at this point, we'll also like to introduce our guests over there in the Federal Capital Territory in our Abuja studios. And we have joining us from the Abuja studios, a senior lecturer in the Department of Law, Bayes University, Abuja, Dr. Sam Amadi. Dr. Amadi, thanks for joining us on The Verdict.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And to provide some perspective as far as the issue of security is concerned, we're also joined by a retired Army General, Cecil Isaac General Isaac Haigbe, thanks for joining us on The Verdict too.
Thank you for having me.
Well, interestingly, we have so many issues concerning security, particularly the talking point being the statement made by the president about shooting. Well, he didn't use those words exactly, but he did warn that anyone engaged in snatching ballot boxes is doing so at the risk of his or her own life. And that has been the major talking point as far as the issue of security is concerned. But now I'd like to go over to Abuja and particularly to General Isaac Haigbe. Security ahead of the 2019 general elections, what exactly is it looking like at the moment?
Thank you. With the assurances given by INEC and the level of preparations that we have seen so far, I do not think there will be any security problem. If there are going to be any security problem, they may arise from the tardiness of the hybrid ad hoc staff, that are to play essential roles in the voting system. But be that as it may, we have to be very, very careful and watchful about the after event, that is after the voting, during collations, and the announcement of results. There may be some, pockets of disturbances that should be well managed. But again, my confidence also came out from the fact that the present IG has shown some elements of professionalism, and his address today, gave assurance that the security agencies are upbeat and they know what they are supposed to do. Now, I think we have to, be very, very clear about, the roles of the security agencies as far as the military is concerned as well. The military had a code of conduct and the rules of engagement, which are derivable from the Constitution and the Armed Forces Act of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, as amended. So there should be no tension of what the military is going to do and not going to do. We have a professional armed forces, and the professional armed forces will always take lawful orders, and they are also conscious and sensitive, to not taking orders into their hands. So for tomorrow, I think we're going to have a very, very perfect election because the INEC has shown, a very appreciable level of preparedness as against last week. And there's some element of also voter education. But we have to watch out for any kind of tardiness that will spur up, the electorate from, some kind of reaction that should be actually managed on time. Again, after the announcement of results, we should also have, some kind of security precautions, in case of some flashes. And again, there are some flashpoints which have already been mapped out. And one good thing that has happened now of recent is that some politicians have been arrested by the police for some acts they term as very negative acts. And it's cut across all parties. So for tomorrow, for those politicians who think they are powerful enough to take laws into their hands, they should now know that the game is up and nobody's going to spare them.